Hey, what's up everyone? Ralph here. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 consequences of minimum wage laws, right? Because I know this is always a hot topic because I've done plenty videos in regards to minimum wage laws, and it's always people trying to fight me, right? And I get it, right? Because for a lot of people, they don't really understand economics and they don't understand business, okay? And all they really see is that all these companies are greedy and that they don't want to pay people. When in reality, that's just not the case, right? If they could, they would pay more. Just that's just not the reality of economics and business. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you the 5 consequences of these a lot of these states, especially like California, New York, and other like states where they artificially increase the minimum wage. So the first one is unemployment, right? And this happens a couple of ways, right? One way is through firings, right? Like and this usually typically happens like when a state you see artificially raises the minimum wages. What tends to happen is that these companies they have a budget, right? They only can hire so much labor, right? They have a budget cost where they say, okay, you know what, my budget is X amount of dollars when it comes to labor, and if I go above that, then I'm going to have to start making some cuts. And this is usually what happens, right? The minimum wages increase, and the company says, all right, you know what, we're gonna have to let some people go, right? And because of that, you get unemployment. Because like I said, people have a budget, right? And then let's say if a company has 5 people on staff and, let's say they increase the minimum wage, that's going to increase that labor cost for those 5 staffs. So of course that company's going to say, you know what? All right, we can only keep so much on staff. I'm going to have to either let, 1 or 2 of you go, right? And right there is going to create unemployment. Another way that increased unemployment happens is, some of these companies don't hire people, right? Usually the people that get, that phased out of this, these minimum wage laws are usually young people and low skilled workers, right? Which typically are young people. Because you got to understand is like when you increase the cost of labor, these companies are going to say, you know what, it's too expensive to hire a young person. I'm going to get a person that's more experienced, more skilled, and this hurts young people because this is why you always hear a lot of people talk about how these jobs, these minimum wage jobs are usually for young people, because this is an opportunity for these people to get for young people and low skilled workers to get their foot in the door, right? To develop some skills and experience. But it's hard to do that if no one is hiring you. Okay, but when you increase the cost of labor with these minimum wage laws, companies are gonna say, all right, I'm gonna get the most skilled worker, and usually the people that get phased out are young people and low skill, and this is why it hurts you, the youth, right? You want to make sure they get an opportunity, especially when you're like 15, 16, like you want to start working, but you can't because you can't find a job because nobody wants to hire you. So that's one effect that a lot of people don't really understand, and this tends to hurt a lot of young people. All right, the second thing is increased costs to customers. Okay, and you saw this in California, places like California, where a lot of these fast food restaurants, like the cost of buying a Big Mac or a burger was becoming way more expensive. Everybody was complaining about how expensive it was to eat fast food. Now it seemed like fast food was starting to become a luxury. Okay, and that's typically what happens. So let's say that the company says, we're going to keep our staff, right? We don't want to let anyone go. Then what they're going to do is that, we have to, since you're cutting into our profit, what we're going to do is we're going to transfer that cost onto the customer, right? Usually an increased price in the price of the product or the good or the service. And that's typically what happens. Like a company's just not going to eat the cost, right? They have a certain profit margin, and in order to make sure they hit that profit margin, and if you're going to, increase the cost of their labor, then they're going to say, all right, then we need to increase the cost of goods sold at that company. So you, the customer, are going to pay for it. And that's why you see places like California, New York, where it's so expensive. The cost of living is so high. Okay, because a lot of these like arbitrary minimum wage laws help create that inflation, right? It creates inflation that a lot of people don't really understand. They just say, oh, you know what, people need to eat and they need to feed their family. All right, cool. Well, if you're a customer, that cost is gonna be transferred over to you. And then if you're okay with paying the higher cost, then that's fine. But as we can see, a lot of people didn't like doing that, especially last year. A lot of people were complaining about fast food being way too high. Well, that's a result. All right, number 3, businesses shutting down. So when it comes to some businesses, maybe they let some people go. Maybe they transfer that cost onto you in higher costs. But sometimes it's not enough, and some companies just can't handle it. So therefore, they got to shut down. So now nobody works, right? Minimum wage is 0. And I know for a lot of people, they use the argument, well, if you can't afford to pay your employees, then you don't deserve to have the business. See, that's just ignorant thinking, because that's just not how it works, right? When you have a government that's artificially increasing the cost of your labor, that's not the way it's supposed to go. It should happen naturally, right? But that tend to happen. Like some of these companies, just these businesses can't handle the increased cost, and then they got to shut down. And now, guess what? Nobody's working. People are unemployed, right? That's tax dollars that are not being able to create it for the state, right? And these are things that a lot of people just don't understand. That a lot of these businesses cannot handle that increased cost, right? They have very small profit margins, and they say, if you increase that cost of my labor, then there's no point in me starting this business, right? And you don't want that. You don't want businesses shutting down. You want to be in business to operate, provide jobs for people, provide tax dollars, and create a higher economic standard of living. But when they shut down, then obviously no one is working, and that's never good for anyone. Okay. Number 4 is increased automation. And this is what a lot of people are seeing now, nowadays, especially in fast food places, where hey, if you're gonna increase the cost of my labor, then there's only so much I can transfer the cost over to the customer, right? And there's only so much labor that I can let go. So it gets to the point where let's automate, right? If there's a job that can be automated, let's do that. Now it might be expenses up front. Right, it might cost a lot up front, but then over time it decreases the cost for that business, right? Because guess what? Robots never get tired, right? They never call out sick. Okay, so they can work endless. They can work 24/7. So that's going to help over the long run reduce the cost of the business. Right? And that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. Like when you're fighting for minimum wage, all you're doing is speed tracking automation. Okay, and a lot of people say, "Oh, it's going to happen anyways." Well, you're just speeding that process up, right? When you're fighting for minimum wages, especially artificially. Okay, so that's just another consequence. And lastly, reduced hours. Like I said, a lot of these businesses have budgets, and usually what they'll do is this: like if they want to keep people on staff, what they're going to do is they're like, all right, you know what, X employee, we're going to give you X amount of hours during this week. Instead of giving you 40 hours, maybe we're going to give you 30. Other employee, maybe instead of 30, we can only give you 20. So people are going to get reduced hours and therefore make less money. And then that means they're going to have to do what? Get a second job, or maybe find another job that's going to give them more hours. Okay, so this is, of course, is going to affect the people that work there as well. And maybe they need those hours. Yeah, they make more money per hour. However, they're getting less hours, and overall, it doesn't really benefit them that much. Yes, the hourly pay gets more, but yet they're still getting reduced hours, making the same amount as they did before. So it doesn't really help. So for a lot of people, these are things that people need to understand, right? And what you want is that you want to allow companies to increase wages naturally, right? Like if companies are doing well, less regulation, they're able to make money, then you hopefully want the company to do the right thing and say, you know what, we got more money, let's increase the wages for a lot of these employees. But I know a lot of people say they're not going to do that, so we have to force them to do that. Well, you're not giving them a chance. Okay, like you're not giving them a chance. Like I understand inflation, everything is costing more. So you're like, we need the money now. And of course, a lot of these politicians, they do it because it gets them votes. Like, yeah, we're helping the working class people. We're gonna increase the minimum wage. When in reality, all that does is hurt the people around it, right? You hurt people that buy the cost of goods, because the costs are gonna get transferred to them, and also you get people that these businesses gonna lay people off and then maybe go out of business, and therefore no one's working. And these are the consequences a lot of these, especially politicians and people that fight for minimum wage, don't really understand. And the thing is, most people aren't on minimum wage anyways, right? It's like less than 3%, especially if you're for those that are above 25. Like most people are not on minimum wage, so you're fighting for something that's not really that serious. But it's an easy way to get votes for a lot of these politicians, and this is why they do it. So. Yeah, those are my reasons. Those are the 5 consequences, and a lot of people really need to. It's important for a lot of people to understand, economics and business when it comes to this stuff, because it really does affect a lot of people, right? And especially with these politicians, they do it just to get votes, not really to help people. So it's important for a lot of people to understand it. So those are my thoughts. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Make sure to leave a comment down below, hit the like button, share, and if you haven't done so, then make sure to subscribe. All right, so guys, take care. Have a good one. Later.